So it was about 2013. Can't remember if it was winter or summer, but 2013, after being well for a very long time, I started having a wave. And that's what it's called when you start having panic attacks and, back to back to back. So I was in a wave and I was having panic attack after panic attack. And a lot of times when the panic attacks would start, it would create a vicious cycle. So I would have a panic attack, and then after the panic attack, I would be depressed because I had the panic attack, and then the thoughts that I would be thinking during my downtime when I was depressed would cause me to panic, and then I would get depressed again. So it was, as you can see, it was a vicious cycle. Um, during this time of my life, I was, really worried about a lot of different diseases. So although when you have a panic attack and you go to the hospital because you think that you're dying and they diagnose you with a panic disorder, if you have a panic attack that very next day, in the midst of it, you never remember that it's a panic attack. So I was having a panic attack, and although I had just been to the hospital and I had just had a whole bunch of tests done that I was okay, I started having a panic attack and I rushed myself back to the hospital, and I'm like, okay, I know that this is not a panic attack. This is a heart attack. This is my throat closing up. This is I'm getting ready to die. I need to make it to the emergency room. So this particular day, I rushed myself to the emergency room. I rushed myself to the emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, of course, they did my vitals and they did all the testing to rule out any life threatening things like a heart attack. And they did all my blood work and everything. So as I'm laying in the hospital, after the triage nurse, they sent me back to a room for the doctor to evaluate me a little further. And while I'm in my hospital gown, laying in the bed, and although I'm terrified. Although I just had my test done recently, I'm still terrified that this time the doctor is going to come in and tell me that something's fatally wrong. So as I'm laying in the hospital bed, I call my friend, and I told him, I said, I'm in the hospital again. Can you come? Because I'm scared. So he said, I'm on my way. So he got there about 15 minutes after that. And, I'm still laying there in my hospital gown. And he leaned over and he said, to give me a hug. And he whispered in my ear, he said, Colleen, when was the last time you showered? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. I don't know. And at that very moment, tears just started coming down my face. And he said, listen, it's okay. But when you leave here, when they tell you that everything's fine again, and you go home, promise me that you're going to get in the shower. So as tears are going down my face, and I look at him and I say, I promise I'm going to get in the shower, and I'll let you know that I did it. So the doctor came in and gave me my discharge papers, told me that everything's fine. And the discharge papers said panic disorder, anxiety disorder, heart palpitations due to anxiety, everything that my discharge papers always say. So, I put my clothes back on and I head home with one mission in mind, and that was to get in the shower. And at that moment, when he said that, it made me realize that I had let depression take over again. On the ride home, I'm like, I can't believe I let this consume me again. So, like I said, I had a mission, and my mission was to get in the shower. That's all I wanted to do. So I was living with my mom at the time. So when I got in the house, I went upstairs to the bathroom where the shower was, and I stood in front of the mirror. and I had on a black short sleeve shirt. And I looked in the mirror and I took the black shirt off, and I looked down at my arms, and I saw black marks all up and down. Well, from here to here on both arms, I saw black marks. So because I'm in this panic state already, I started panicking. Oh my God, what is this on my arms? What is this on my arms? And so the sink that was in front of me, I put water on my fingertips, and I just started doing this to see if it would come off. And at that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the dye from the shirt, the black short sleeve shirt that I just took off, that I've had on for Lord only knows how long. So tears started rolling again, and I'm just looking at all the black marks and the black dye on my arms. So I started the shower water, and I stepped in the shower, and I'm looking down at my arms, and I started lathering up the soap on my washcloth. And I'm lathering up the soap. I'm crying. I'm lathering up the soap. And then I start scrubbing the black marks off of my arms, aggressively trying to get it off. And as I'm seeing the black dye go down the drain with my tears, at that moment, I looked up and I said, God, I need you. Lord, please, please help me get back on the other side of this thing. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't even know how I got back to this point. So I'm crying and I'm scrubbing and I'm crying and I'm scrubbing as hard as I can. And I'm just seeing all this black dye go down the drain. And like I said, at that moment, I made a decision. And I decided, with the help of God, I decided that I was going to get back in fighting mode. I had acknowledged that depression and anxiety and panic disorder and OCD and my thoughts had taken over once again, and not only taken over, but consumed me completely, to the point where I was oblivious to when I took a shower the last time. I was oblivious to the fact that I totally let my self-care and myself, everything, I let it go. And I just asked God, please step in. My strength, I don't know where it is. I need you to remind me of my strength. And I prayed in that shower that day like I've never prayed before. And I asked God, please put the strength back in my heart, or remind me of the strength that's already in my heart, so I can fight this thing. And that I will never see black dye go down my drain ever again. And like I said, at that moment, I made a decision. I made a decision to fight and to keep fighting. Times when I felt good, when I thought that I was on the other side of anxiety and depression, something would happen and it would knock me off my feet, because I would get cocky and say, I don't need medicine. I don't need meditation. I don't need this. I don't need that. I'm good. But that's not the case. What I realized in that shower and that day was, I have to keep fighting every single day to make sure that I stay well, to make sure that, I'm not seeing black dye from a shirt that I've had on for weeks and weeks and weeks, stuck on my skin to the point where I had to scrub so hard to get it off. I promised myself, and I promised God that day in that shower, that I would fight and always fight for my peace, for my sanity, for my life, my soul, my spirit. And I just did this video just to let you know that no matter where you are with your anxiety and depression, you can always decide to fight. to keep fighting. You will get on the other side of this. When I stepped out of that shower that day, I was on a mission to heal. I was on a mission to fight and to be strong for not just me, but for my family and for other people. So I don't care where you are, how weak you feel right now. You have to decide to rebuild your strength, and you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And a couple things I just want to give you, some tips. First, I want you to acknowledge where you are right now with your anxiety and depression. Where are you? Ask yourself the tough question and answer yourself honestly. Where are you right now? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? And then I want you to decide that you're going to fight. It takes a decision, one decision. And then remember your worth. Remember your worth, regardless of what the diagnosis says, regardless of what your discharge papers say. I don't care if you have anxiety, bipolar, depression, whatever it is. That does not mean that your purpose and assignment still doesn't stand. You are still worthy to step into your purpose. You are still worthy to step into your assignment and do it fearlessly in spite of your diagnosis, in spite of, what the paperwork says, in spite of all of that. You still have a greater purpose and you can push through it. You can push through it. And then the last thing, to find a support system. So I have a free Facebook group where I am personally inviting you to come into. It's called I Beat Anxiety and Depression Now What? And it's just a platform for people like you and me where we can continue to grow and heal. And I encourage all of our warriors inside of that Facebook group to start speaking the language, I beat anxiety and depression, as if it is so. As you continue to fight, as you continue to heal, you still have to speak what you want the outcome to be in the atmosphere, in your spirit, every day, all day. So I hope this encouraged you. I hope this inspired you. And I will see. My name is Kelleen Diana, and I'm sorry, I am the founder of the Gals Women's Empowerment Network and the creator of the I Beat Anxiety and Depression movement. So again, I hope this inspired you, encouraged you, and gave you hope that you too can get on the other side of this thing. And I love you, and I will see you in the group.